all of you here for this event, not necessarily political, but we're going to talk a little politics. Being there, done that before. I was the Jefferson County Commissioner, first female elected and youngest still to this day. Are you younger than me? I is? Okay. Well, then you can take that spot. I'm gladly giving that up. It is hard running for office, folks. These candidates have been on the campaign trail. I've run campaigns. I've been in campaigning since I was 15 years old. I am a super voter, and a super voter means I vote every time, anywhere, on anything. It doesn't matter if it's the neighborhood association or them changing the park out tomorrow. I'm there. You should make that a mandate in your life, because voting, as we know, does matter. It does. That one vote, and I used to be that 20-year-old who didn't think it mattered until somebody older pulled me aside and said, but it does. So with that, I'm going to go over what we're doing here today. And also, thanks to my station, 98.7 KISS FM, Summit Media Corporation, and I'm the news director there, and also the vice chair, the second vice chair behind Randy Kelly of the Alabama Democratic Conference, which is a black caucus for the entire state of Alabama. Quietly, we do our work, and we are excited to have you here. This is what's going to happen today. We have 4 gubernatorial candidates, and they're going to introduce themselves. I know them all from a different life, in a good way. All of them here, and they're all exceptionally great candidates. I don't think I've seen a field in the Democratic Party for candidates like this in a long time. It will be a tough choice, but you have to make a choice. And with that said, this is how the program is going to go. Here are the rules, candidates. No applause or comments during debates. And it'll be a short debate. We'll get out of here quickly. Number 2, each candidate will be given a 2-minute opening statement. Each candidate will be asked questions and will be allowed a 1.5-minute response. Each candidate will be allowed a 2-minute closing statement, and no candidate will direct their responses toward any other candidate. We're going to play nice today. Y'all can do what you want in campaign trail. And our illustrious timekeeper, if you look at her, she's in the center. She will graciously give you the time. And we will have 5 questions. Each candidate will be asked the same question. And I will randomly just ask. There's no favoritism here. I know all these folks. I'm so excited that you guys are running and none of us are for that spot. Because it's 67 counties in the great state of Alabama. 67. Guess where they got to be? In all of them. Every one of them. And they look so good. So we're going to get you out of here, because I know you sleep in the car. I know somebody sleeps in the car. So, without further ado, here we go. First of all, we're going to start with you. Sue Bell Cobb, to introduce herself to you, the audience. Go.
Thank you, Sheila, and thanks to Lonnie and to James for, and not necessarily political, for putting this important forum together. You know, Alabama's issues are way too important to leave it up to politicians. Is that not correct? It is our citizens and the engaged citizens that are so important. And I want to thank y'all so much for giving us this great opportunity. You know what's the best way to see what somebody's going to do? The best way to see what a candidate will do? Look and see what that person has already done. I want to offer to y'all my 30 years of public service. I became a judge at the ripe old age of 25. I then ran twice in Connecticut County as a Democrat, and then ran for the Court of Criminal Appeals, where I served for 12 years, and then was fortunate to be honored to serve on the Chief Justice at the Supreme Court. And during that time, I always worried about the gaps. The fact that our state, being 50th in the nation, the amount of revenue that it receives to run government doesn't meet the basic needs of government. So look what I did. As Chief Justice and as a judge, I realized that Alabama was one of the few states that did not have an Access to Justice Commission. I got the other justices to establish it. I made model drug courts a major priority, realizing that was the best way to save lives and make us safe and keep us safe. As a result, we started with just 14 active drug courts. When I completed my time as Chief Justice, we had drug courts in 66 of 67 counties, almost 100 courts of accountability. Further, I worked on juvenile justice reform. Having been a juvenile judge, Sheila, you remember those days. I was a juvenile judge and president of the Juvenile Judges Association. I worked to write and pass, and get the legislature to pass juvenile justice reform. At that time, ladies and gentlemen, 252 kids were locked up in DYS for crimes they had never committed. We got the legislature in 2008 to pass juvenile justice reform because of bold leadership. So when you want to look and see what someone's going to do as governor, look and see what they've done. And please, on June 5th, vote Sue Bell Cobb.
Thank you. Sue Bell Cobb, everybody. Our next candidate up is James Fields.
Thank you, Sheila, Lonnie, and James, and to all of you. We appreciate you being here tonight. It does our hearts well to know that so many people are engaged. But I first want to introduce you to my wife, Yvette, our second oldest daughter, Chanel Nicole, Chris Thomas, Curtis, nephew Ivan, Becca, Shirley, first cousin, Randy, Phil, and Mrs. Lincoln. And then our new staff member is with us tonight. Folks, this race is very important. Without change, nothing changes. And we are the change. We are the direct change that this state needs. We are the ones who have been in the trenches. We know what it means to govern. We know what it means to be compassionate. We know what it means to be law-abiding. We know the hurt and the pain that people are suffering throughout this state because we lived it. It's not nothing we thought about or something we saw on TV. It was part of us. We served 28 and a half years in public service work, helping people move from one state to the next, as far as being unemployed and looking for a job to feed their families. We spent 28 and a half years working in law enforcement. We spent 17 years serving a church in the United Methodist Church. We spent 5 years serving the World Church, dealing with ecumenical work and holistic conferences, bringing countries together to deal with the issues that directly affect all of us. We want to be your governor. On June the 5th, it is James C. Fields, Jr. Please remember that name. Thank you.
Thank you, James Fields. Our next candidate is the current mayor of the city of Tuscaloosa. His name is Walt Maddox.
Good evening. When I was 17 years old, I knew I was going to be a Democrat. I remember hearing Paul Hubbard in 1990 speak about his campaign. And I got a bumper sticker. I went home, put it on my El Camino. Yes, I drove an El Camino because it was a bag boy, is all I could afford. I'm just a kid of the public schools. And I remember hearing Dr. Hubbard talk about healthcare, education, diversity and inclusion, talk about good roads and infrastructure, good jobs. And here we are, so many years later, still talking about the same issues. As mayor of Tuscaloosa, I didn't have the opportunity to hide behind the marble of Montgomery. I've had to work every day to find solutions. In Tuscaloosa, we've done that, and I hope to get an opportunity to talk to you about it. But I think the one thing that's been clear about my 12 years of service with the city, I know what it's like to lead in good times, but I also know what it's like to lead in crisis. Through the Great Recession, through one of the worst natural disasters in the state history. And throughout those challenges, Tuscaloosa has come stronger. Leadership is about what you do in crisis, when you're tested, when you're pushed up against the wall, when you have to make the tough decisions that are not easy and will never have unanimous consent. The last 12 years as mayor, whether it's been health care, infrastructure, pre-K, you name the issue, we've been bold enough to lead on it. As governor, I'm going to do the same. And I'm never going to forget that 17-year-old kid who was proud as hell to put that bumper sticker on the back of that El Camino because he believed in the Democratic Party and believed what it stands for. Thank you all for coming out tonight, and I look forward to talking about the issues that matter with my colleagues behind me and with our great moderators. Thank you.
Thank you. Walt Maddox. Our next candidate is Anthony White.
for a minute. Repeat after me. Together, Alabama. Together, Alabama. That is what my campaign is all about. Bringing Alabama together. I'm 36 years old, and I just believe that together we can build a stronger and greater Alabama. I just believe that. And I need your support and your prayers, because this race is not about me, but this race is about my children, your children, and generations to come. So what we have to do is understand that this race is critical. And the name of this event is not necessarily political. I just believe that in this seat we need someone that is not necessarily political. Someone that will fight for people. Someone that will fight for human rights. Someone that will fight with integrity and just do the right thing. Putting people first. Because it's very simple. If the people grow, what else will happen? The state will grow. So we have to put focus back on the people and do the right thing. Come June 5th, vote Anthony White, Alabama governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. White. And with that said, these are your 4 candidates. Please, please, please make sure you listen carefully to all their answers on these questions. Our first question will go to Mr. White, because I'm just going to go back from the end. So get back up there or stay seated. You can stay seated if you wish. It's up to you. Explain your plans for a lottery, and how do you plan to distribute funds if such a law is passed?
Well, that's a great question about the lottery. It's something that I believe that will help Alabama tremendously. With a lottery, it will bring about somewhere around $200 to $600, $200, $500 million roughly to Alabama. And with those funds here in Alabama, it will bring Alabama out of a budget deficit each year that we face, year after year after year. We all know the trials and the tribulation that Alabama go through on a yearly basis. But now is the time to fix those problems. Now is that time to fix those problems. With the lottery, I will make sure that our children are the focus point. What we can do is make sure that our children can go to a 2-year or 4-year college. So that way they won't have to go into this world with debt all over their head. But what we must do is focus on the children. And if we have a lottery here, it will help the people. And when I talk about encouraging people, my campaign is based around empowerment. What can we do to help people? We can bring a lottery here. Everywhere I go, I hear people talk about, what is your stance on the lottery? What is your stance on the lottery? Being that I'm a minister. The thing is, if elected governor, I will not be a governor just because I'm a minister. But I'll be a governor to fight to help Alabama get better. And that's what I'm going to do if I'm elected governor.
Walt Maddox.
Well, I'm tired of educating Georgia and Florida and children, quite frankly, and so I'm absolutely in favor of that. And today, we unveiled the Alabama Education Lottery, and it has 4 cornerstones that we're excited about. Because we're going to be able to invest $300 million without raising taxes. The first cornerstone talks about something near and dear to my heart. I talked about when I ran for mayor in 2005, and that's pre-K for our children. What we're going to do is create universal pre-K across Alabama for the 70% of the children who do not have it. The second thing is a scholarship program, very similar to what you see in Tennessee. Not only are we going to focus on higher ed, but also 2-year and career technical. 90% of the jobs that have been created since the Great Recession have required either a 4-year degree or a 2-year technical degree or a trade that has been learned. We have got to begin that momentum in Alabama, very similar to what you see in Tennessee. The third thing that we're going to do is establish the Promise Program. The Promise Program is going to make up the deficits that we see in funding with the Alabama Foundation Program. As you know, part of the Foundation Program is a 10 mil match by local governments. What we want to do is equalize that, because we know 1 mil in Mountain Brook doesn't equal 1 mil in Marengo County. And the fourth thing that we want to do is what Quando talked about. We have too many of our children coming into the classroom with academic needs, mental health needs, nutritional needs, physical health needs. So under our community innovation grants, we are going to provide innovation schools the opportunity for these wraparound services.
James Fields.
Well, we hear it year after year. we're going to get an education lottery. We're going to introduce a lottery bill. And it has not come to pass because you have failed leadership. This is one governor who will make sure that you will have a lottery bill to vote on, because that is your right to vote. And that is something over 80% of Alabamians want to do. And yet, it's each year you hear the same rhetoric. Each time an election cycle comes around, you hear the same thing. I appreciate my friend having the 4 points. And I appreciate the idea of a lottery. And it must go to education. Pre-K programs are great. But what about the parenting skills? So if I take your child in at the age of 2 or 4, 8 hours a day, and not give you something to work with, then the parenting skills are taken away. So it's got to be more than that. If it's $300 million, if it's $400 million, if it's $500 million, how much is enough? We're going to make sure that education is provided to every child in this state. Everybody's not going to go to college, but you may get a vocational training. You may be the best HVAC there is. You may be the best plumber there is. You may be the best electrician there is. And so we must invest in all of Alabama. And the lottery is for all of Alabama. And so, folks, we must be very careful. But this is one governor that will make sure you have a lottery bill to vote on, if we even have to write it. We'll make sure that the legislators are held accountable, and that they will be accountable to you, and they will make sure that the bill gets out to you so that you can vote on it. And that's what it's all about. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Sibel Cobb.
Thank you, Sheila. Lifelong Learner Lottery. I was the first candidate for governor to come out with the plan regarding the lottery, and this is how your money will be spent. That $300 million a year, conservatively, that will be coming in, first we will set up a commission, a lottery commission, that will be beyond reproach, totally transparent. Second, the funds will go to help people that need it the most. Fully fund K-4. Y'all know we're only meeting 28% of the 4-year-old kindergarten need. We fully fund K-4. Then, because of the need between 0 to 3 child care, we need to add on a sliding scale for working families to help with child care 0 to 3. Then we fully fund Career Tech. We're only now presently meeting 50% of the Career Tech need. With the Lifelong Learner Lottery, we will fully fund Career Tech, and every single child will have the opportunity for access for state-of-the-art Career Tech. Lastly, the balance of the funds will go to pay the difference in Pell Grants, so that every single person, whether they're 18 and want to complete their education as far as a technical degree, or if they or college, or if they're 50 and lost their job, they would be eligible to get the Lifelong Learner Lottery funds to pay the gap for Pell Grants and go to school for free. This will transform Alabama. It's going to put money into our education trust fund so that we can pay teacher raises and fully fund early reading initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question. The Associated Press posted an article, January 31st, 2018, that the Trump administration's $1.5 trillion infrastructure plan shifts the burden to the states and encourages the states to identify private investors. What are your plans to fix our roads, our rails, our bridges, and our waterways in the state of Alabama? And we'll start that question with Walt Maddox.
Well, first of all, what could go wrong with that formula? Just fill in the blank. Number one, that is not living in a real world. As a mayor, every single day, I'm responsible for nearly $1 billion in infrastructure that I have to make certain meets the standard of Tuscaloosa. In fact, in 2015, we had to pass legislation called the Transforming Tuscaloosa County Act that's going to take $120 million of local tax dollars and invest it into ALDOT highways. Why? Because right now across the state, 20% of our bridges are functionally obsolete. That meant 1 million of our fellow citizens drove over these bridges and they shouldn't have done it. There's really been no concrete plan and no leadership to get it passed. As governor, we're going to pass the Alabama Alliance for Infrastructure Plan. It is time that we take a responsible method and responsible strategy to invest into our roads. But here's the caveat that I would change as governor. We have to do this based on priority. As mayor, we don't invest based off the power of a council member or the power of a council district. We invest based off the need of the infrastructure, whether it's road, bridges, sewer, which we don't have time to talk about, which is a true travesty in our state, water, fiber, which is your broadband. We are going to take a strategic approach in addressing that through the Alabama Alliance for Infrastructure Plan.
Thank you. Mr. Fields?
You're right. The president did say that. I often wondered why. $1.3 trillion for infrastructure. And when you hear the word infrastructure, the first thing that comes to your mind is roads and bridges and etc. That's not infrastructure. Infrastructure is being able to communicate with the outside world. Infrastructure is being able to put broadband into every home in the state of Alabama. Infrastructure is being able to make sure that every home in Alabama has running water. Infrastructure in the state of Alabama is being to make sure that every home in Alabama is sustainable. All the bridges and all the roads you can fix, but if you can't move people across your state, it doesn't matter. We are spending money on top of money fixing roads. What we need to do, folks, we need to think ahead. We need to think about commuter rail. We need to think about a way of moving people from Tuscaloosa to Birmingham, from Birmingham to Atlanta, from Atlanta back across the top of the state to Memphis, from Memphis back to Atlanta, to Chattanooga, to Nashville, so that when our young engineers, when our young professional people finish college, they can go to work somewhere else, but they'll come back home on this rail. Some people say, well, how can you do that? What you do is you go to each major city and you get them to partner. Years ago, Birmingham was trying to partner with Atlanta to have a commuter rail from Birmingham Airport to the Atlanta Airport. But people failed to communicate. This is one governor that can communicate. And I'll go to these large cities and say, look, we need to buy in because your people need it. Yes, people are traveling over dangerous bridges and dangerous roads, and we need to fix them. We also need to fix some of these dams that are in our state. Alabama have more navigable waterways than any state in the Union. Alabama have more people who are left out in the cold because we only think about it. When you think, just think about it for a moment. Think about it for a moment. When you hear the word infrastructure, talk about let's take priority. Think about it. How many people will be left out? My priority is for all of Alabama. The heart of Alabama. That's my priority.
Thank you. Sybil Cobb.
Thank you, Sheila. It's time, y'all. It is time. It is time to have a governor that will tell the people what they should hear, not what they want to hear. We literally, in Alabama today, are in a situation where county commissions are evaluating which roads to put back to dirt. Y'all, our parents' generation was known as what, Chris? The greatest generation. What are we going to be known as? Right? What are we going to be known as? I want to be the kind of governor that's known for the kind of leadership that really will work with both sides across the aisle, but will work to basically tell the people what they should hear. And what they must hear is we have not elevated our fuel tax in over 25 years. Are y'all tired of sitting in parking lots of I-65? Anybody? Anybody tired? Anybody tired of going up to Coleman? Going down to Clanton and Montgomery? It's going to take somebody who truly is more concerned about the next generation than the next election, is truly more concerned to be able to establish that leadership in order to look for a way to actually afford to improve our infrastructure. And let me hasten to say this. I also, as governor, want to take an honest and bold look at toll roads. If we will look at toll roads to cut off major thoroughfares, like from 2059, going from Gadsden, go up through like Blount County or somewhere like that, up to I-65. If we would look at some of the toll roads, I think that that's another avenue that could greatly help us with congestion.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. White.
Now, when we mention and talk about infrastructure, we're going to need some experts. I'm not an expert by far. I'm not a politician. But I do believe, and what I will do, I will promise, every decision that comes across my desk, I'll have 2 to 3 experts there with me to go over everything so that we can do what's best for Alabama, growing Alabama in every way possible. We will have the experts there. I will build a team, and the team will work hard. We will work hard. My grandfather was the first business owner in my family, and he showed me the very essence of hard work. He showed me what it was like to get out and make it happen. He showed me what it was like to press beyond the I can'ts and believe that it can be done. Well, Alabama, I promise you one thing. If I'm elected governor, I will bring that same work ethic that my grandfather showed me and taught me into this seat to make sure that everything's get better for Alabama. I will fight for Alabama. I will fight for roads. I will fight for infrastructure. I will fight for the people's growth. And I will do that if I'm elected governor.
Thank you. Our third question. Alabama has secured 2 new auto plants, Toyota and Mazda, in the Huntsville-Madison area, giving the state now 5 plants, which includes Mercedes-Benz, Honda, and Hyundai. What are your plans to secure job training for the upcoming increase in job opportunities? Mr. Fields.
We already have job training in place, AIDT, Alabama Department of Training, and other programs. We just got to get people to these places to get them trained. The sad part about it is when you name those industries, they're all in North Alabama. And we're forgetting about our people in South Alabama. How do we get them employed? How do we get them to these jobs? You know, we're going to spend all that money in North Alabama in 2020, there will be a census taken, folks. And if everybody's in the north, we will lose a congressional seat in our state. And that's part of our future. So we hope that we'll be able to convince some of those industries to put some first-tier industries in the southern part of our state, into the black belt, into the heart of our state, so that people can get good jobs. Mercedes-Benz is getting ready to put on a full electrical line. They're going to make a fully electric automobile. So when I talk about commuter rail, these things are just right around the corner. Alabama educate more engineers than probably any state in the country. Tuskegee University, UAH in Huntsville, University of Alabama, University of Auburn, Alabama State, Alabama A&M. These people educate engineers, and we need to put their minds to work for Alabama. And that's what we hope to do if we are elected your next governor. Thank you.
Thank you. Sibel Cobb.
Lifelong Learner Lottery. With $300 million, as I mentioned, a significant portion of those funds will fully fund our workforce development. With $50 million of the lottery proceeds, we will fully fund workforce development and put state-of-the-art career tech within the reach of every single Alabamian. And while doing that, we're creating jobs in every single county. Sumter, Franklin, Pickens, Etowah, every single county will have their share. We have the regional councils. The problem is, as many of you already know, there's just not the funding to help train these young people. Dual enrollment is unbelievably important. With the $50 million that we would allocate according to those in this area, with that $50 million, we will be able to fully meet the specific career tech needs in each region. Mobile's different from Birmingham. Birmingham's different from North Alabama, Limestone or Athens. The needs are different. But what we've got to do is work so that our children can take advantage and have that opportunity. Because with when we have the Lifelong Learner Lottery, when y'all elect me your governor, we will be fully meeting our workforce development, where 100% of our people who are physically able to work will have the opportunity to have the training and the ability to be able to treat and to support their families. You know, it's one thing to have more jobs. It's time to have better jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. White.
Empowerment. Empowerment is one thing I will focus on heavily, from my children to our adults. I will make sure that every man, woman, boy, or girl have the same opportunities across the board to exceed to the highest of heights. They will not be able to say that I cannot do this, because I will make sure that we light a fire under them so that they can feel that anything can be accomplished. That's what we lack in Alabama. We need to make sure that we are pushing our young people towards success. And that's important. But a lot of times we forget about that. We need to put incentives in place. At my daughter's elementary school, they have a program where if you have all A's or if you have A's and B's, you get incentivized. What happened, if you get A's and B's, you can go to Krispy Kreme, you can go and get ice cream. I believe that we should initiate that across Alabama to all of our children. Give them some incentives. Let them know that we care. And I will fight for Alabama if I'm elected governor.
Thank you. Walt Maddox.
This is the quintessential question facing all Alabamians, real quick, and it's a lot to cram in a minute and a half. Number one, we're going to consolidate and hopefully, we will coordinate our workforce development councils, K-12 and post-secondary, and we need to align those councils with the workforce development regions to meet the skills of those in that regions and the jobs that are there or are coming. Tuscaloosa has done an outstanding job of this, so when you get home, Google Tuscaloosa Career Technical Academy to see exactly what we've been able to do in Tuscaloosa, what we're going to implement statewide. The second thing is part of our lottery proposal we released today. And in that lottery proposal is career technical training and workforce development for Alabamians. Why do we need that? Today in Alabama, 100,000 people came into our state to work in Alabama jobs. 100,000 people. At the same time, we have 600,000 people that are in jobs that their skills are higher than, thus they're not getting paid enough. Let me end with a question. In the last 20 years, Mercedes, all the other automotive suppliers, Airbus, you name the defense industry in Huntsville. And why are we still 46, 47, 48, 49th, and 50th in every category? Because we don't invest in education, we don't invest in health care, we don't invest in road and bridges, and that's going to change when you elect the governor. Thank you.
Thank you. For those of you who don't know, in the state of Alabama, there are a ton of dirt roads. You got it good in Birmingham. There are a ton of dirt roads, and that's why roads are so important. The Alabama DOT is a big lobby that all of these folks would have to deal with if they win, but it's a big deal. Infrastructure. You have broadband. They do not have that. You know, they got dial-up in Camden, in Wilcox County. I don't think you understand. You got this beautiful facility. They don't have facilities in some of these rural counties. They just don't. Jobs. They can't read. They can't do the math. So Airbus, what, 25,000 jobs? Guess what? They're importing people into the state of Alabama to take your jobs because the aptitude is not there, and these companies have to run a business. That is what's going to happen when Toyota and Mazda comes if you do not elect a gubernatorial candidate and other candidates that can push through, that understand your needs. Let's go on. Speaking of that, minimum wage. How many of you agree that, with a show of hands, that the minimum wage should be raised? And with that said, Sue Bell Cobb, you're first. What should the minimum wage, in your opinion, be for the state of Alabama?
There was an effort in Tuscaloosa called 1010. I think that's a good starting place. Unfortunately, it was blocked. But we understand that in Alabama, we have the fourth highest percentage of minimum wage jobs in the nation. Y'all know what that is. That's disgusting. That's what that is. We need a governor who understands the importance of a living wage. And what we've got to do, and I totally agree with Sheila, because the Living Lifelong Learner Lottery, we'll be able to make sure that every child in Alabama is ready to succeed when it's time to go to first grade. And as a result of that, they're going to be ready for those jobs. So we can do much more than have minimum wage jobs. So to minimum wage jobs, we have got to have a governor that makes it a priority, an absolute priority, that is courageous enough to look business in the eye and say, you're not telling the truth when you say that you're going to lose jobs. You're not going to lose jobs. The data shows that elevating the minimum wage helps our economy, does not hurt our economy. And we need a governor who, yet again, is bold enough to tell the people what they should hear, not necessarily what they want to hear. I can promise you this. Sue Bell Cobb will work morning, noon, and night to increase wages for all people in Alabama, all of us.
Candidate Anthony White.
On this issue, we would definitely, again, go back to bring the experts to the table, people that study this day in out, day out. In Tennessee, I believe, they took the minimum wage up to $15 an hour. I would bring individuals to the table so that we can research, go page by page, research the issues, and see what can we do to put the focus back on helping the people of Alabama, because it's very important. And so I don't want to stand here and make the promises of this and that, but I will promise you, if elected governor, I will sit down at the table and research with experts to make sure that we can raise minimum wage, and that will equip to helping the people of Alabama.
Thank you. Walt Maddox.
I agree with Judge Cobb. The people of Alabama need a governor that will tell them the truth. And in 2015, there was an effort to increase minimum wage in the city of Tuscaloosa alone. Now, it made for great politics. People would have loved me. I could have said, we're going to do it, but it's been unconstitutional, Judge, as you know. So we did the right thing. We told the people the truth. And we went on record. In fact, I may be the only candidate by council resolution that's gone on record in 2015 to support a statewide minimum wage increase. And as governor, we will continue to fight for that minimum wage increase statewide. We have to do it statewide. Else you're going to pit Hoover against Birmingham, Northport against Tuscaloosa. And look, who's going to win that battle of the haves and have-nots? The people who need it the most. See, you need a governor that will tell you the truth. That's not just going to get your heads to nod because it sounds good, but somebody that's every day going to do what he believes in his heart is right for the people that he represents. I'm not going to lose that focus when we win this election. And here's the other thing. We've got to focus beyond minimum wage job. 100,000 people we import a day into our state. Think about if we can elevate our people through our lottery plan for workforce development and through our coordinated job training program. That's where we become a next level state. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fields.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Mr. White. Folks, minimum wage in Alabama? What is minimum wage? I appreciate the efforts by the folks in the city of Birmingham, led by Ladarius Hilliard, and got it passed. And then Montgomery turned it around. Think about this. You got Mercedes, Toyota, Honda, possibly another automobile industry, that we paid $90,000 to $100,000 per job that they supposedly going to create. You just heard that they are bringing in people. So what about the people of Alabama? What about that mom and that pop that's working on a poultry industry, struggling to feed their family? What about that young man who's working in an industry or garment industry? We got to pay people fair living wages. People got to be able to live like you do and like I do. People got to be able to take their families on vacation. So we need to fight for fair, equitable wages. And that's why Alabama should be a state to where both labor and business can sit down at the same table. For too long, we have turned our back on the best product that we have in this state, and that is the people that we serve, you. You're the ones who make up this state. You're the ones who will be going back out in your communities and saying to your friends, I need you to vote for James Fields, because James Fields is going to stand up for us. James Fields understands. We went from education lottery to now taking money out of the lottery and paying for other things. My wife is a workforce development person. I served on the North Alabama Council of Governments, one of the 12 regions. Sometimes duplication is not good for our state. We need to vote James Fields June the 5th.
All right. Our next candidate? Yeah. Isabel Collins, did you answer that? Yes, you did. I'm sorry. Mr. White. Okay. You got everybody? Okay, well, that's good. I'm moving right along. All right. I'm not going to keep you long. That's what Elizabeth Taylor said, right? Some of you millennials don't know that. All right, let's go to our last question, and then I'll take a couple questions from the audience. I will need you to have those questions. I don't need statements, I need a question. It's a gubernatorial race. Y'all can take that up with your other candidates. Have a little more time with them. So, our last question right now, at least from the prepared questions, unemployment is at an all-time high in parts of the country, and it's really, really bad in parts of the Black Belt, parts of the Black community, and women. How do you plan on, and what do you plan to do in regard to the unemployment rate, and particularly with Black communities and others? And we'll start with you, Mr. White.
I think unemployment right now is around 3.5%. I believe
it's 3.5% for average.
I think,
but it's yeah, you're right, and I will correct that. In the Black community, it's double digits. In the Black Belt and other rural counties, proceed.
What I would do, I would put jobs on the forefront. Searching within Alabama first, throughout the country, and then abroad. We will try to focus on putting jobs here, bringing up proposals, asking individuals, business owners, what can we do to bring businesses? What can we do to get you to bring your business here to Alabama? That's what we need to do. We need to sit down at the table, searching in Alabama first. Because if we need the business owners in Alabama, they want opportunities. But we have to make the opportunities available to them. I will focus on jobs, making sure that when children go to college, they get out of college. They don't have to go to Tennessee. They don't have to go to Texas. They don't have to go to Washington. They don't have to go to different places. But they can search for jobs within Alabama. That's important. We need to restore Alabama's values. We need to make Alabama beautiful again. Because there has been so much corruption over the years. But now is the time to elect a governor who cares and who will put in the work and work hard for the people of Alabama. Thank you.
Thank you. Walt Maddox.
I've talked about the lottery. I've talked about workforce development. Those elements stand strong. Let me talk about the Black Belt and then minority participation. In the Black Belt, until we address the issues of education, healthcare, and infrastructure, it is going to be impossible to be able to bring high-paying jobs. Because whether it's Mercedes, whether it's the suppliers, whether it's any industry, you've got to have those basic elements. And those basic elements have been ignored in Alabama for way too long. Remember, in Lowndes County, Alabama, they discovered our fellow citizens with hookworm. That should not be acceptable in our Alabama. So first and foremost, we've got to improve those elements. The second thing that I think is important is we've got to be intentional about creating minority businesses. If we're not intentional, we're just doing nothing but give lip service. In Tuscaloosa, we implemented Tuscaloosa Builds. Tuscaloosa Builds is a program that since we started in 2013 has created over 200 minority-owned businesses in Tuscaloosa. Last year alone, nearly $10 million in contracts, city contracts, to minority-owned businesses. This doesn't include now that the University of Alabama participates in our program. PARA, Tuscaloosa City Schools, Tuscaloosa County Schools. And in a few months, we'll be opening up the EDGE, which is going to be a partnership between the University of Alabama, the Chamber of Commerce, and the City of Tuscaloosa, a $12 million facility that's built for entrepreneurs with a component of minority business development. That is what we're going to bring to the table when you elect this government. Innovation, effectiveness, pushing the envelope, and be willing to talk about the issues we've been afraid to talk about for too long in this state.
Mr. Fields.
You're correct. The unemployment rate is in single digits in some places, and then in the Black Belt it is double digits and probably even higher. The unemployment rate is based on the people who are receiving unemployment checks. A lot of people that can't get unemployment, a lot of people's unemployment has expired, so then they go out of the system. And so therefore they're not counted. How you get jobs in the Black Belt, how you get jobs in the poor counties, is that you will talk to employers. And if you're going to come to my state and you're going to open up shop, you're going to put something there. If I'm going to give you $90,000 for every job that you create, you're going to create some jobs in the Black Belt. We can educate our people if we are intentional. Some counties don't have universities in them. Some counties don't have all the other amenities in their counties. They're barely surviving. And when you ride through those counties, those people are suffering just like anyone else. Yeah, we need to, first thing we would do is sign the Medicaid expansion bill. Get it done, get it out of the way. The second thing is the lottery, the education lottery, which will go for education, and it will be equally dispersed to every school system in the state, and especially in the Black Belt. And there will be jobs created down there. Because we have people who go across the state helping folks make sure that they get livable wages. Folks, keep that in mind, livable wages. Where people can sit down at the family table and talk with their children. Time's up. Folks, we need your help. And you know where the hurt is. And the unemployment rate is deplorable when you get to some areas in this state. I'm sorry, I'll yield the rest of my time to you.
Thank you, James. He's great.
That's right today.
He's great. All these guys are great. They're all great. And it's wonderful for us to have the opportunity for Democrats to have qualified folks like this right here, isn't it? We have choices. And there's going to be excitement in the Democratic primary because of these choices. Having been an unfettered, outspoken child advocate, I can tell you what's the best way to take care of children? For mom and daddy to have a good job, right? That's the best way. And that's exactly what we've got to do by all the things, and a lot of us have mentioned, because, honestly, y'all, there's not going to be near the differences between us, is there, guys, than between one who you elect as a Democrat and on the Republican side. Because what happened on the Republican side? We had a doctor sworn to take the Hippocratic Oath. Did he not? And he refused to expand Medicaid, and that cost Alabama $8 billion with a B jobs. Money. $8 billion. 30,000 jobs. And those jobs would have been spread throughout the entire state. So that is what you're going to have by electing the right Democrat, the person that can win in November, and the person that actually has a feel and a compassion and concern for the least of these. I'm from Connecticut County. I know what it's like to have roads that you can't patch. I know what it's like. My hospital, my community hospital, one of the reasons why I'm running for governor, one of the major reasons I'm running for governor, is the fact that my hospital is one of the 74 that's now operating in the red. We've got to fix it. We've got to fix it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we're going to get to a couple questions in the audience. I think that oath was called Hippocratic Oath. Governor Bentley. Ooh, that is my comment on that. Anyway, we are, you know what? Subel Cobb, you are from Connecticut County. Mr. White, where are you from?
From
Houston County. Tell everybody where that is. Wiregrass.
Dothan, Alabama.
Dothan, Alabama. Tell me a little bit about yourself, your family. Just quickly, give me 20 seconds. Who are you, Mr. White?
I am a ordained minister of 13 years. I own a small business. I work in my community. We do Feed the Street. We go to different cities each month feeding 300 to 500 people in the community to give back. I am a person that truly cares about the growth of the people and the growth of this state. Because, again, the equation is very simple. If we can focus and come up with true things that really works, focusing on the people and then the state, and then that's the perfect combination. The people will grow, then the state will grow.
Have you done anything politically?
I've never done anything politically.
Never been elected to office?
I've never been elected to office.
What do you do daily?
I own a small business,
okay,
and I'm
great.
a minister as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Walt Maddox, tell us a little bit about yourself. You got 30 seconds. Go.
Born and raised in Tuscaloosa, graduated from Central High School. Actually walked on at UAB and earned a scholarship in football and earned my undergrad and master's degrees here at UAB. Fortunate to go back home to Tuscaloosa very fortunate to marry Stephanie. And we have 2 children, Eli and Taylor. Taylor's at Northridge High School. She's 15 years old. And Eli's a 4-year-old preschool. So that's a little bit about myself. And again, thank all of you for sticking it out.
Current mayor of Tuscaloosa?
Thank you.
Are you the current mayor of Tuscaloosa? Have you done anything politically?
Yes, I've been elected 4 times, re-elected last March with 89% of the vote.
Done anything with the party? Done anything with the party?
I've served in the State Democratic Executive Committee, Local Democratic Executive Committee, and my work began when I was 17 years old.
And were you the chairman of the Tuscaloosa County?
No, I never.
You never were. You look like it. I remember seeing you.
James Smith was always the chairman.
Okay, sounds like a winner. Let's go, Mr. Fields. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, where you been, where you going.
I hope to be governor come June the 5th. And, I've heard we need to elect somebody on June the 5th that can win. We can win. We served as a state representative in Cullman, Alabama, when people thought it was impossible. There were a lot of people who thought it was an anomaly going on up there. But I have people from Cullman here tonight who will tell you James Fields is well respected. James Fields was a man who would lead his county and this state. James Fields was a man who won by 64% in a county that is 99.999% white, 98% Republican, and I won as a black Democrat. See, when you take your eye off the mark, you lose. When I ran for re-election in 2010, I took my eye off the mark. I'm happily married to my beautiful wife, Yvette Moore Fields. One of our daughters, Chanel, is over here. I all my other friends and relatives and cousins over here, and you can see they are a mixture. Folks, we know what it takes. We serve public service 28 and a half years.
All right, time's up. And Sibel Cobb. Yes, he's giving all his time to you. Sibel Cobb.
Sibel Cobb, a little girl from Evergreen, Alabama, shocked, nothing but shocked, that I have been able to have the privilege to serve, be the first woman elected to the Court of Criminal Appeals, be the first woman elected Chief Justice. And I could not have done it but for those I have had in my life. My husband, Bill, when Bill and I married 28 years ago, I inherited his 2 boys who he had custody of. Our son, Bo, is an FBI agent. Our son, Andy, works with the American Cancer Society. And I'm very happy to have my daughter, Caitlin. Caitlin, can you stand? Who just graduated with honors from Alabama and has been accepted. And Bill, as James just asked, how does a little girl from Evergreen, Alabama, how can she be successful statewide? Do y'all know? She marries a boy from Coleman.
Whatever works, folks, whatever works. Who has a question in the audience? All right. Step up. Okay, right here. Let's make it brief.
I just want to know each candidate stands on abortion rights.
Abortion rights, go. 10 seconds.
I believe that in this process, in the event that someone does choose that, we need to put 3 options on the table before they make that choice. Seek spiritual counsel, professional counsel, and an abortion agent.
All right, go.
Personally, I'm pro-life. I'm going to be pro-law as governor. I think it's insanity to criminalize or politicalize such a very complicated and personal decision.
Go, Mr. Fields.
Abortion is the law, and we will abide by the law until the law is changed. We will abide by the law.
Go, Sibel Cobb.
I have friends of deep faith on both sides of that issue. And I'm absolutely convinced that the Republicans who've been in charge for way too long have kept us focused on divisive issues. So I have made the choice. I, of course, understand the rule of law. I believe in the rule of law. But I also believe that we've got to keep our focus on the issues that are going to put food on our table and take care of our children.
All right. Question.
Okay, so impressed with all of you. The President of the United States said, what in the hell does the African American voter have to lose? I want to ask you, what are you going to do about it? To make sure that the African American voter won't have to say that it is true. In the black belt, you don't have jobs, you don't have opportunities. What will you do to make sure what the president says is not true? Because in my mind and most urban cities, in most African American communities, it's true. What in the hell does the African American voter have to lose? And what do you?
Come on, Pat, baby.
Pat,
Come on,
I still don't
baby.
understand your
Yes,
question.
I got to get on
I
the
still
mic
don't
now.
understand your question.
Yes.
What in the hell is the...
I understood it when the president said, if you are going to be the governor, and you explain, Mr. Fields, and some of you, about the condition of the children and the conditions of the mothers and fathers not working, what are you going to do to make sure that this doesn't continue to happen to the black voter?
Okay, thank you. Quickly.
Please.
All right, Mr. White.
I will begin first with changing the people's
Last question
mindset.
here, Sheila.
Changing the people's mindset. Making sure that they feel valued again. A lot of people have just lost hope on the system, on the government. But I believe that we can spark a fire under every man and woman to get out and vote and understand that their voice matters.
All right, Sibel Cobb.
It's time to have a governor who will begin a real and meaningful conversation on race in Alabama. As a juvenile judge, I'm here to tell you, as a former Chief Justice and a judge for 30 years, I'm here to tell you, so much of Alabama's poor public policy that's keeping us at the bottom of every good list and at the top of every bad list is based on our unaddressed animosity by so many policymakers to those people of color and the poor. It is time to have a governor that wants to begin that conversation and keep that conversation going until Alabama becomes the envy of the South.
All right, Mr. Fields.
Without change, nothing changes. And we're that change. Each one of you are that change. When I looked at the TV back in October of 2017, and I saw a family in Camden, Alabama, walking down the road with their children carrying 2 jugs to get drinking water. That took me back to 1960. Now, folks, it's 2018, and they still don't have running water in their homes. The black vote do count. And you're looking at the change. And so does every vote in Alabama count.
Thank you, Mr. Fields. Mr. Walt Maddox.
When I was elected mayor in 2005, the first core value that I stated in my inaugural speech was that we were going to attack the problems in West Tuscaloosa, which is a predominantly black area of our city that had been forgotten for decades. And since that time, we've invested over $100 million in a myriad of different things you've heard me talk about tonight. So what are we going to do as governor? More than high platitudes, this is where we start. We've got to invest in infrastructure in rural Alabama, and we're never going to change the condition. We've got to create a program that engages minority business owners and develops more minority business owners. We've got to address our criminal code, including the decriminalization of marijuana.
All right,
that is just the start of where we'll begin on these issues.
All right.
Carlos Terry, Outcast Voters League, work with you when we can and against you when we have to. First off, I want to say thank you, Mayor Maddox, for at least saying the word black. It's something that we are so afraid to say. When Birmingham, I'm going to get to my question, but when Birmingham is 37% impoverished, and we have so many black people, 75% of the city black, so many black folks live in poverty, that's what we want to hear about. That's what we want to talk about. Nobody tonight.
No sermons, please. Let's get a question.
Absolutely.
No sermons.
I'm frustrated, but I have a question. Let me get my statement out.
We can tell. You ready? Question.
Question, please.
As I was saying, with so many issues prevailing in the black community and what we're dealing with, what are you doing specifically in your capacity to deal with the issue of making sure that you stand up for the issues of black communities?
Okay, thank you. Go, Mr. Fields.
Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you, Coach.
For too long, Carlos. For too long. Black folk have been left out of the equation for too long. But I never governed a city. I was born and reared in an all-black community. Worked with white folk all my life. Calluses on my hands, picking beans and peas and slopping hogs. So I know what it means to hurt. And I know what the frustration is. And that's why we're running for governor. I don't have to paint a facade. I don't have other things at my disposal, but what I do have,
thank you, Mr.
I have your vote. Oh, thank you, sir.
All right,
Thank you.
Sibel Cobb, I want to take it from you.
30 seconds is hard, but I'm going to say so much of what I've done with access to justice, trying to make our civil justice system more accessible to those who are economically disadvantaged, juvenile justice reform, making sure that we weren't doing what we normally do or all too often happens, and that is the poor get a different result when they come to court. We've got to fix that, and my whole career has been worked on trying to fix that. Sentencing reform, comprehensive, meaningful sentencing reform is a huge problem.
All right, next, Walt Maddox, and then Mr. Wayne.
Carlos, I don't know where, there you are. The truth is, black people in Alabama have been forgotten about.
Absolutely.
And you look at our record as mayor, we've been willing to confront these issues. Doesn't mean that we're always perfect, but we're willing to confront those issues. And tonight, you've heard specific programs, specific ideas to address those issues. Whether it's increasing diversity, minority-owned business, investing in urban areas that have been totally forgotten, not only by too many cities, but state government.
All right.
That's where we find the solutions to these problems.
Thank you.
I've been in ministry for about 12 years. I believe that we as a state should work close with the pastors within our communities. Our churches are the pillar of our communities, and they can make a big change. So we need to put the focus on working with the people that are in charge. Even business owners. We need to bring business owners, and we also need to bring pastors to the table.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we got 2 questions. You're going to take 2, and you're going to take 2. Speed round. Here we go.
Speed.
You're going to take. I got good balance, folks. And now I'm a lawyer. So. Okay. Quickly, human trafficking. What are you going to do about it?
I'm going to make sure that we restructure our security, and make sure that we come up with solutions, bring awareness more on actually bringing that to the forefront, because that is an issue.
All right, that's what you're going to do. Human trafficking, Isabel Cobb. That was one of our audience questions.
As many of y'all do know, that because of our proximity to Atlanta, we are, 2059, we are like a corridor for those that are involved in the horrific slave trade and human trafficking trade. So honestly, I think that us making sure that more people are aware of it, making sure law enforcement is more aware, so that we could make sure that we do a better job trying to...
Thank you, Ms. Cobb.
Thank you very much. Let's go to prison reform. Mr. Fields, quickly.
Prison reform, we will make sure that fair citizenship is taking place, and we're going to make sure that everybody that goes before any judge will be treated with the same respect and the law applied the same.
All right. Prison reform.
4 things before we go build $800 million in new prisons. We're going to address mental health, substance abuse, educational attainment, and career technical advancement and training.
30 seconds. Pardon shot. Isabel Cobb.
Parting shot?
Yep, we're wrapping up.
2006, I signed the dissent in the Ray Hinton case, which went up to the United States Supreme Court, and the United States Supreme Court cited my dissent. And later, Ray Hinton walked out a free man. He had been serving for 30 years on death row for a crime he did not commit. I'm telling you that I am committed to equal justice under the law. No one knows more about the criminal justice system than I do, and nor is more motivated to fix it.
Mr. White.
We need to definitely put a focus back on human rights. So many things go on within our prison systems, and we just overlook them. For instance, we need to make sure that we focus on serve. Make sure that the felons know that they have a right to vote, because a lot of them don't know that they have a right to vote. So we need to put the focus back on serving the people and doing what's right, leading with integrity.
Mr. Fields.
On human rights, everyone has a right to everything. Everyone has a right. And we as leaders should make sure that no one is left out. And we need to make sure that everybody is treated with the same respect. And we need to reach out and make sure that everyone has a seat at the table. And that's what it's all about. Thank you.
And Walt Maddox.
If we're talking about human trafficking, then ALEA needs to be coordinating with local law enforcement along with a task force from the FBI and the Alabama Bureau of Investigation to make certain that not only do we catch the human trafficking, but we also work with the DAs when we prosecute or forfeit of assets. As it comes to human rights, the best thing that we can do is lead by example. You're going to hear me say this a lot. It's about results. It's not about rhetoric.
These are your candidates for governor. Give it up for the candidates for the gubernatorial race, not necessarily political decision. 2018, you decide. Okay, thank you so much. You got some announcements, housekeeping. Let me be clear with you. I come from a lottery state. I've been in the great state of Alabama for 25 years because my father couldn't get a job in Sumter County. I have no student debt. I have the best buses, the best uniforms, band, cheerleading. I didn't even know what it's like. And I come from a predominantly black high school and school district. The Michigan lottery educated me, really. General Motors with jobs. My dad had a second grade education. But by the grace of God, I came back to Alabama to help y'all out. And this is the people that are going to help you even more. You can do this, Alabama.
Right.
Vote, 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 and vote for the person who's going to work for you. Vote for the person who's going to work for you and your family. We got a couple announcements. Thanks to Mr. Lonnie Malone. Give it up for James Williams. Thank you so much.
Can we do this?
Illustrious mayor who needs his keys.
Yeah. Right before we go,
All of you candidates as well.
Alabama Democratic Conference is going to be in Lynette, Alabama, March 3rd. Good sale. United Methodist Church. There will be another meet and greet just like this. You guys make sure you get down there, okay? We believe in supporting, so please make sure you get there. Thanks to everyone for coming.
Take care and be safe.
Godspeed.
Mr. Malone, you got something else? Thank you so much. Have a great